Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk about Korea's history in terms of trading, and then I will begin with ancient area, ancient or ancient age. In this age, in 1st to 6th century, despite the conflicts between China and the various Korean states over the centuries, the two nations were frequent trading partners. Iron, gold, and horses were exported to China, and then Korea imported silk, tea, and writing materials. In 7th century, Silla exported gold, silver. Let me add silver in 7th century, handiwork, and ginseng to Tang, and they imported books, ceramic ware, satin silk fabric, clothes, and craftwork products. Those are the imported. And then overall ancient age was like this. And then the next one is Middle Age. Middle Age. In this area, Korea is an agricultural country whose economic structure mainly depends on land finances. Therefore, they collect 1/10 of the tax every year. In addition, Korean court also asks all localities to pay tribute to improve their economy. In business side, Korea has had commercial activities since founding of the People's Republic of China. Korea also started overseas trade and become a international trade port. The folk trade between Korea and the Song dynasty is the highlight, and Korea exported ginseng, and paper seeds, ink, rami cloth, folding fans, and porcelain. Those are exported goods to Song dynasty, and then Korea people imported dyes, spice, silk, tea, and medicinal materials. Those are the imported from Song dynasty. And then in manufacture side, in the Middle Age, Korea also divided into government handicraft and folk handicraft. So in handicraft, they produce some of the handicrafts by government and also by folk, and they exported some of the handicraft to other nations. So this is another exported goods, and those are the highlights of the Middle Age. And then the next one is Renaissance age. Renaissance age. In this age, during Lee's Korea period, the country's main economic source was agriculture taxation. The tax revenue is mainly from gongmi, mixed with a small amount of local products, and seldom collects monetary rent. Therefore, agriculture has become the key to the economy. In 15th century, with the reclamation of Westland and the improvement of farm tools and development of agriculture has been promoted. And at the same time, the handicraft industry and commerce have been developed and export. So agriculture and handicraft played huge role in terms of exports in Korea. The function of money is gradually improved. Therefore, not only local business are increasingly developed, but also foreign trade has entered a normal track. After the 17th of the century, private handicraft factories replaced government-run workshops, which stimulated the development of handicraft industries that produced goods for sale. The increase of commercial activities also promoted the rise of the commercial agriculture. So in a summary, agriculture and handicraft was mainly the main point for the economy of the Korea. And the next one is modern age. In this age, before the 1019, Korea had a relatively backwards agriculture economy. Therefore, their export mostly was rice and other grains. But in Korea, economic growth was increased due to the modernization and industrialization, such as developing the Gyeongbu Line, Gyeonggu Line, and Gyeongwon Line. Those lines and the roads helped to improve the trade, resulting for 25 years between 1912 and 1937. In that area, in that time, exported goods was mostly agriculture, textile, and chemical. In 1961, Korea, to promote development, a policy of the export-oriented industrialization was applied, closing the entry into the country of all kinds of foreign products except raw materials, which means that Korea restricted to import any goods except raw materials. And in that time also they release tax breaks, legality, and cheap or free financing for chaebols, or those Hyundai, Samsung, and LG Corporation. In 1970s, South Korea was dependent on imports of raw materials such as oil. A major government objective was to significantly increase the level of export to surpass the import-export ratio. In 1970 to late 80s, with 5-year economic plans policy, planners selected a group of strategic industries to back, including electronics, shipbuilding, automobiles, iron and steel, and transport machinery, petrochemicals. As a result, heavy and chemical industries, iron, steel, and shipbuilding became export goods of the country, which occurred because high quality, low cost ratio. In late 1980s, Korea to shift from heavy and chemical industry to technology intensive industry such as precision machinery, electronics, and information. More attention was to building high technology products. In 1990s, South Korean manufacturers planned a significant shift in future production plan toward high technology industries. Nowadays, South Korea relies largely upon products such as electronics, textiles, ships, automobiles, semiconductor, and steel being some of its most important exports. And then as an import, like in the past, country relies on raw materials, and petroleum, oil, and parts for electronics and automobiles. In recent year, especially pandemic year, COVID-19 time, South Korea, with the need for social distancing, many firms switched to remote work and virtual meetings. Thanks to its strength in semiconductors and high information technology, South Korea was well placed to meet growing demand for laptop and desktop computers. By the end of 2020, South Korea exports of semiconductors, electrical equipment, and parts for information technology was increased during the COVID-19. And with the demand for smartphones showing, South Korea's export of smartphone decreased due to the shortage of raw materials during pandemic. So smartphone was decreased because of shortage of raw materials. And automobiles also affected by the COVID-19 durations, the reasons. However, COVID-19 gave opportunity to some markets in South Korea's export. For example, the pharma, let me write again. Pharmaceutical. The pharmaceutical industry saw export as a whole increase in 2020, while South Korean biologics firms have been tapped as contract producer for COVID-19 vaccines by AstraZeneca, Novavax, and then Sputnik 5 vaccine by Russia, and are under consideration to produce others. Also, the test export, like test kits for COVID-19, whether you are positive or not, was also increased during this pandemic in export of the South Korea. Like export of test kits grew 758% with Italy, followed by United States, India, Germany, and Spain as the top 5 export markets. Also, export of diagnostic reagents used in test kits grew by 265%, while export of vials and cotton swabs to collect test sample increased to 322%. So the pharmaceutical industry increased hugely in the South Korea export. Okay, those are the main interaction in trade history for South Korea. And thank you to listening. Thanks.